Now, should you love your job? That's a question that I've wrestled with throughout my, most of my career. I've been in quote unquote corporate America for, or working for an organization for nearly 10 years now of my life. And I took sort of the road less traveled, or maybe it's more common these days of just, I didn't go to college and got a good degree, like a business degree or, a high value, high ROI type degree. And then, my first job after college was like, a good stable job, good income. It was entry level, working my way up. And so this idea of, passion meets work, it is an interesting one I think about because there's a lot of surveys or just data out there you could look at, or just anecdotal stories you hear from people about employee demands, and then obviously all these company layoffs, and it's like where does that question fit into the picture of this conversation of should one on a micro level love their job? Should they be passionate about it? Now, before I talk about that or just think out loud, I want to say welcome to the Practical Place. My name is Ryan Holguin. I like to talk about things like this topic, but also the business world on a macro scale, sports, add some commentary in anything I see sports related, and then even just talk about data in all realms of life. And so if any of that stuff interests you, I would encourage you to subscribe. We've almost hit for the past few videos, I've said join the 300 plus. Now we're almost to 350 now. So join the close to 350 other people here that have subscribed. Come along to the journey. This is sort of like a video diary-esque type of channel where I talk about things out loud. Sometimes they're open-ended, sometimes they're very specific, or I have a point to make. But a lot of times I just want it to be things I enjoy talking about. And so if that's something you like or appreciate, subscribe and join us on this journey. But should one enjoy the work they do? So I'm at a place in my career where I really love the work that I do. I enjoy it. There is a lot of freedom in the work that I do. I came up in the project management track, if you know my story, got my PMP, was able to cut my teeth as a project manager and then evolve as a project manager and then to be taken serious as a project manager. And so with that has created a lot of freedom of just like micromanagement, freedom of, and I'm not saying you can't have those things if you're a project manager. I'm just saying from my experience, that's what I've gotten, of just like feeling like I can work freely without Big Brother watching me, if you will. There's still obviously goals I need to meet and things like that, like, with the folks I report to, but there's just so much freedom when I come to work. I can just be myself and work hard. But like early on in my career, honestly, and that's, I think, there's probably a handful of people that watch this channel or watch these videos that this is where you're at, which is early in your career. Maybe you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you want to be. And that's okay, honestly. Like that's an okay place to be. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a system in place where you go to school, graduate, hopefully high school, you go to college, and then you kind of know what you want to do with your life. But I mean, with the invention of the midlife crisis or the quarter life crisis, I mean, it's very clear if you just look at those things, like people don't know what they want until they think they do, and then something happens and then they change their mind. And so, there's a lot of earlier roles in my career that there were seasons where work was just a drag, and it was just really hard to motivate myself to work. But for me personally, I had external things that I needed to, that kept me going. So I have a family, I have kids, a handful of kids, wife, been married, for about as long as I've been in, this organization, nearly 11 years. But that's sort of something that's really pushed me to stay consistent with work. I mean, everybody can respond differently to any situation, right? But for me, I've always said, like, on one end, I sacrificed quote unquote freedom, quote unquote experiencing life with maybe just my spouse, for having kids really early in our marriage. And that ties you down, right? You can't just go out and do whatever you want to do and go to dinner every night with friends if you have a child, unless you're just you have so much help, or you're punting that child off, or whatever, right? There's many different reasons one could still do that lifestyle. But for us, it was like, we can't do that. And so that sort of rooted me to like figuring out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do with my life. I always had this sort of internal drive, to whenever I was super early, young, I wanted to be a rapper, and I wanted to be this person and like do something really big, because I came from, a place where we didn't have a lot. And so it's like, there's more to life than this. You watch TV, you see something, you hear something, and you're like, clearly there's more to life than what I'm experiencing, because I see people that have it. I just need to figure out how did they get that so that I can get that. And so, as you get older, you start to realize there's a whole game, that's being played. And then how do you insert yourself into that game and maximize your opportunities that you get? But like early on in my career, it's like I worked in a warehouse. I was bagging chips in a warehouse. I was, installing sprinkler systems for the city. I was, doing jobs like that when I was married, having kids. And I was not passionate about any of that stuff. But what I was passionate about was providing for my family and trying to be a better man. And, if I look back, there's a lot of things I did wrong, but there was that consistency of just like, I'm going to work. I'm never going to not work. I don't love what I do, but like while I'm doing this, how do I find the better job? And that was a lot of my early career. And then I was able to get an entry-level job working at a call center, basically, with a company. And I was able to hear stories of people that work their way up from that position, to become successful in others' eyes, or whatever success looked like for them. Success looks different for everybody, but just in terms of like, well, this person was here in an entry-level role, and then they moved up to a professional role or manager role or whatever, right? And you see that and you get inspired, and that stuff inspired me. And so I was like, well, what do I have to do from to get here to there? And that means sometimes you're going to have to take a job. At least for me, in my story, is like, I had to take a job that I didn't love necessarily. It's not like I'm like, let's wake up and like, let's answer these calls, baby. Let's do this thing. Like I wasn't, passionate about that, but I knew it was a part of this greater goal that I had to achieve something bigger than where I was at. And with that came, well, right now, what does that look like? That means right now, today, I've got to be faithful with whatever my boss is asking me to do. And that was something I learned early on in my career. Thankfully, like a few years into my career, I was pretty green, pretty raw, didn't understand the political culture of an organization, and still like checking the box and doing what your boss needed them to do, but also like adding value as well to the organization, right? And once I learned that like there's this game being played, in organizations, you just have to understand the rules and then play the game well. And then assuming when you do that, you're actually going to help people around you. You're going to help your coworkers. You're going to help the business. You're going to help society, assuming you believe in the work that you're doing or the services you guys are providing, right? All being equal, like all that stuff's going to happen. But there was a handful of jobs that I was not passionate about, but like, that's okay. I feel like it's really actually helpful for one to go through that struggle, of showing up every day, being disciplined. I guess that's a key word, right? Disciplining yourself to do something you don't love doing. And that was something I told myself all the time. I was like, if I can do this when I didn't love what I was doing, when I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, like how much more am I going to be disciplined whenever I find something I do love and something I am passionate about? And honestly, as somebody that has experienced working roles that I did not love, that I was not passionate about, persevering through that, now getting to a position in my career where I do love what I do, like that stuff does carry, and that has carried with me to where I feel like I'm it feels like cheating in a way, which sounds weird to say, but it's almost like when I started running, I try to run consistently, 3 times a week or whatever. But like before I started running, I got into this mindset where I was just going to run every day, and I was running every day. But the beautiful thing about running is like nearly anybody can do it. They can start today. And I didn't even have running shoes at the time, but I was running. And then finally I invested into some actual running shoes. And I remember the first few runs that I took with those running shoes, it felt like cheating. I was like, man, people run with these things all the time. Like I'm going to be able to run miles and miles with these things on. It just felt so different from wearing regular shoes, tennis shoes or whatever, and then putting on actual shoes designed for running. I don't know. I felt like cheating. So in the same way, whenever I had this sort of discipline, this perseverance spirit to do something I didn't love doing, and then I was able to get into a position where I did love doing what I was doing. Man, it was just, again, it felt like cheating. It felt like I already have this drive. I already have this passion. I've been able to get through things in my career, in my life that I didn't love doing, but I got through it. And now I'm in a place that I love. How much more momentum is one going to have when that's where they're at? And so I guess the answer is, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just thinking out loud here, but it's like, does one have to love it? Maybe not. Maybe there's other motivations. Again, I've talked in the past few channel videos. It's like, maybe it's just money for you, and that's to each their own. That's not my preference. I don't think that that's probably the best thing for someone's life, to just obsess over money and idolize money. But that's, everybody's got their own values. But if it's got to be, there's got to be something deeper than just working for the work itself. Like there's probably an internal drive, and if you're watching this video, you're probably somebody who has that. You're probably somebody who wants more. You're probably somebody who feels like there's more out there. There's more than what's happening right now. And you might be in a season where it's just not fun. It's not fun to show up to work every day. It's not fun to answer those calls every day. It's not fun to change those sprinkler systems, whatever you're doing, but you're there. And there's probably something you want to do. It's like, well, how do I get there? You got to figure that out. And then it's like, well, if I can keep up this discipline now, once I get to where I'm at, like, and I'm passionate about it, then like I'm gonna be able to take off really, really far. And so, yeah, that's kind of the question, right? Like, do you have to be passionate? And it's like, I don't think you have to, like, or not, at least not early on. Like, I think there's a good lesson in early on struggling through work, but being disciplined and getting through that season. And you're gonna, at least for me, learn a lot about yourself, learn a lot about what it's like to wrestle through tough moments. And then you build stories and experiences of you can point back to say, because you're going to get to a point, like even now, there's still days where I struggle from a motivation standpoint, but I can look back at those moments where I persevered through harder times. Oh, and I know for sure I can get past this. And so you can take those things with you wherever you go. But yeah, that's some thoughts I'm having this week. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, are you somebody who's early on in their career, or maybe you're one of those having a midlife crisis? I don't know where you're at. Let me know, like, what is that something you think about, or you've had to wrestle through? What have been some ways you've been able to build discipline, build perseverance, build a callous sort of mind or spirit about yourself to get through things that are hard, even whenever you're doing things you're passionate about? Let me know in the comments below. Like, let's have a dialogue about that, and maybe you can encourage others in the words you say. If you found this video helpful, I would encourage you to like it. Again, subscribe, join the almost 350 people that are also following along with this channel. My name is Ryan Holguin. This is The Practical Place. I will see you in the next video.